feel like you can never be yourself, or you can never say how you really feel. Until now, yeah. When it's sundown, my mind is on the rundown. I be feeling like my happiness is on the come down. But when I speak to you, I feel like it's a touchdown. Finally found me someone I can really trust now. I always have so much to say, but no one to say it to. If I can talk to you today, I know I can make it through. So let's have this conversation like a radio station. So let's have this conversation like a radio station.
It's finally Friday, and it's time for the conversation with Maria Byrd.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back. You are listening to The Conversation with Maria Byrd, and I'm super excited about today's show because we have with us a very special guest. He is blessed and favored to be in ministry and matrimony with one of the world's best kept secrets, Lady Lorona Phelps. Together, they are the leading examples to Christian living for their 6 beautiful children. He's a pastor, a husband, a father, but most of all, he is humbled just to call himself a servant of the Most High God. Please help me welcome to the show my very special guest, Bishop Eusebio Phelps. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So how are you?
I am good.
Awesome.
I am good. I'm busy.
Yes.
Working, and the kids are good, the wife is good, life is good, ministry is good.
Yes, sir. Awesome. Yes. Well, before we get started, I did my very best to try to introduce you, but can you just tell the people just a little bit about yourself?
Well, I am a native of Georgia. I grew up right here in Marietta, so I've been in the Atlanta area all 45 years of my life. I'm never leaving. I feel like I'm in the greatest city in the world. So I'm just, just a local guy that just grew up in this city. I'm a father. I love sports. I love ministry. I love life. I love my wife. I love my children. I love God's people.
Yes, sir.
I love serving the people of God more than anything else. Jesus said that the greatest among us is a servant. So I try to serve the house of God and the people of God with all of my heart, with my greatest capacity.
Yes, sir. Wow. Well, I just want to say that it's truly an honor to have you here. Just a man of your caliber. Just all of the works that you've done in the kingdom and the body of Christ at large. So truly, again, I just want to say thank you so much for just taking the time out of your busy schedule to be with me on today. And so, I just wanted to get to know the person. As the beginning, to get to know the person of Bishop Eusebio Phelps. And so I just wanted to ask you, considering all that you have experienced and accomplished up to this point, if we were to go back in time, what type of child would you say you were?
Man, I was the type of kid every mom and every dad wanted their child to be.
Yes, sir.
I was a honor roll student.
Wow.
All throughout elementary, junior high, up until my junior year in high school.
Wow.
So the only time I made an F in the 11th grade, and that's when things sort of started like transitioning in my life, because I grew up in the church.
Yes, sir.
I grew up in the church. I went to church just about every Sunday. Wow. My grandfather was the chairman of the deacon board. My grandmother was the church secretary. And my grandfather also was the co-founder of the church. So I grew up in church all of my life. I got saved at an early age. So as a kid, I was real smart. I was nerdy. I was a bookworm. I had plans and dreams to be an attorney. Wow. And so I stayed focused. I had perfect attendance in school for 5 years.
Come on.
I was a class representative. I was in the student body. I ran for class president.
Wow.
There's a lot that people don't know about me. Some people know some of the things that I've been through as relates to my experience in the world.
Yes.
But they don't understand that I did not come from the world. I came from church and went from the church into the world and back to the church.
Come on.
So I was a nerd. I was the one that was probably least likely, if my classmates were to take a vote,
yes,
going into high school, who would be the least likely to ever get in trouble or ever, break the law or ever go to the left, I would probably be the one they voted for. And
wow.
So, yeah. But God has a way of, when God has a plan and a purpose for your life,
yes,
regardless of what we do, He has a way of bringing us back into that plan that He has for our life.
See, I love this, Bishop. I love this. I mean, let's get into it because, that was going to be my next question. Were you and God always on good terms? You kind of touched on it as far as the 11th grade. Can we go to the 11th grade? Like, what happened in the 11th grade?
Oh, man, you really want to talk about it?
Let's talk about it.
Okay,
yes.
We're going to talk about it. I grew up in church, and in the midst of that, as a kid, we grew up in the projects, but I didn't really have the project experience. I grew up in the projects, but I always had stuff.
Yes.
My mom worked. She was a hard worker. She worked sometimes 3 jobs at one time to make sure that I had the best of everything. So, for Christmas, I always got stuff. I always had birthday parties. I've always had clothes, bikes, name brand stuff. My mother would not take food stamps. We didn't, we wasn't on welfare. I didn't get free lunch. I got a reduced lunch, but she had too much pride for me to get all the way. So I paid 35 cents. You know what I mean? So, but when I got into the 11th grade, I was a nerd. And when I got into the 11th grade, that was a period of transition. And I'll tell you what happened during my 11th grade summer. As I was going into the 11th grade, that summer I was working at McDonald's and I was working at a car wash.
Yes. And
I saved up money over the summer to put a down payment down on a 1985 Ford Mustang.
Ooh,
it was black, with red interior with a red pinstripe.
Ooh.
And so my junior year, I started driving to school because we had moved out of the city of Marietta, and we moved really to the unincorporated Marietta, and I was supposed to go to South Cobb High School.
Wow. But
since I had been in Marietta City Schools all my life, I wanted to continue to go to Marietta, so I started driving to school my junior year. And in the midst of that, I can remember my father was stationed in Korea at the time, and I can remember him writing to me a letter. And when you're talking about a prophetic letter, in that letter that he wrote me from Korea, he basically told me why he wanted to get out of Marietta, why he left Marietta, and he warned me about things that I should watch for in Marietta, because in Marietta it's almost like a lot of people are surprised when you talk about Marietta. They don't know that we had projects in Marietta. We had like 6 or 7 different projects in Marietta. They knocked them all down now, but there's a lot of strongholds in Marietta. There's a lot of generational curses in Marietta. So my father, he left to escape those strongholds and those curses that was in the city. And my 11th grade year, as I began to drive to school, sort of like I transitioned from being a nerd to now being a guy with a car. So I went into my 11th grade year as an honor roll student, a nerd, bookworm, guy that had perfect attendance, to losing my virginity.
Come on, bitch.
So I lost my virginity, and as a matter of fact, I can remember it was the first night of Christmas break, December. I lost my virginity, and when I lost my virginity, I was 16 and a half years old, and that put me at a place in my life where things started to like unfold that I really wasn't prepared for. That was like a gateway to other things, and when I lost my virginity, now I'm girl crazy. Now I'm not thinking about perfect attendance.
Right.
Now I'm thinking about chasing women.
Right.
And so as I began to get involved sexually, I lost focus on things that were important to me.
This is good.
And now at that time, like a couple months later, I believe it was like February of 1990, my best friend was driving my car. I was at work at McDonald's, and he was somewhere driving my car. What he didn't supposed to be. I hope he's listening, because he still owes me. But he was somewhere driving, and he got into a car wreck and totaled my car. And when he totaled my car, now I'm like messed up mentally, because my car is gone.
Right.
Now I'm gonna lose all the women. Because I wasn't too many black kids that was driving to school when I was a junior. There wasn't too many seniors that were driving to school. So when I lost my car, now I'm like, man, I gotta buy another car. So I started selling drugs.
Come on, Bishop.
In the midst of my junior year, I started selling drugs. And so let me tell you what happened. I was hustling my junior year in high school, and that summer I made 2 F's, first time ever. And that summer my mother, she sent me to my dad. And while I was down at my dad's house over the summer, I get a phone call, and my dad is like, come in the house. And so it's my mother on the telephone. And my mother is like, you got somebody pregnant.
Come on,
like,
Bishop.
What?
Help us.
Yeah, her parents came up to me at church and told me that you have that daughter pregnant. And I was like, well, I don't know anything about it. I did used to talk to the girl. And so here I am going into my senior year.
Come on, Bishop.
Just turned 17 years old. I just made F's for the first time in my life. Going to my senior year with the expectation of trying to graduate, but also there's a child that's going to be due in December of 1990. And so now my focus is like really my priorities are really like messed up. I'm all over the place. So in the midst of going into my senior year, like as soon as I got back from Columbus, where my father was stationed at Fort Benning, me and my stepfather, we got into an altercation, and it got real sort of bad. And my mother, she was like, well, y'all can work this out. And I was like, no, I'm leaving. I'm 17 years old. I'm leaving.
Right.
I'm going to stay with my auntie. You need to stay. Y'all married. I'm grown now. This your husband. I'm leaving the house soon anyway. So I left. And when I left my mother's house, I stayed with my auntie for a couple weeks. That didn't work out. So me and one of my friends, we ended up getting an apartment off Franklin Road. So here I am as a senior in high school with my own apartment. And at this time, I was basically selling drugs throughout my senior year in high school, trying to support myself. Not only trying to support myself, I'm thinking about this child that's getting ready to be born in December. So I'm selling drugs. I'm going to school, but basically because I was real, how you do stuff that's wrong and you're ashamed of what you're doing?
Yes.
So I was ashamed of what I was doing. So when I sold drugs, I did it at nighttime. So none of my mother's friends would see me. I was ashamed because I knew I was wrong.
Come on, Bishop.
So I would go out on Roosevelt Circle, go out on the block during the night, my senior year, and I would stay out maybe from like 10 to like 4 or 5 in the morning. Then I would leave, go home, take a shower, get on the bus, go to school, and I would sleep from first, second, third, fourth period, and I would wake up for the last 2 periods of the day, after lunch. And if my pager went off, you remember the beepers?
I remember.
If my beeper went off, I would leave out. I would get one of my friends' car, I would get Patrick's car, and I would leave out and go meet the people, whoever, that I was, handling business with, and I would come back to school. So here I am, I'm hustling my senior year in high school.
Come on, Bishop. The
baby is born in December. So now I'm really like, man, I really got to hustle. I got to take care of this baby. I want to be a good father.
Right.
I'll do what I got to do to take care of my kid. So make a long story short, I hustled throughout my senior year. let me see, about 9 or 10 weeks before graduation, I got arrested my senior year. And I got arrested for something that I did not do.
Come on, Bishop.
I got arrested for drugs, and it was someone else's drugs. And the guy, he hid his drugs behind his house. And at this time, they had a narcotic task force. It was called the Cobra Unit up in Cobb County. And so they arrested me. And so I went to jail. They gave me no bond. So here I am. I'm 17 years old. I'm sitting in jail. Not juvenile. I'm sitting in real jail. Real jail.
Come on.
And I stayed in there for 2 weeks. So my mother got me out finally. They got me out. Got an attorney. They got me a bond. I got out. I go back to school. And a week later, I get into a fight.
Whew.
A big racial fight in school. And so they expelled me 6 weeks before graduation. So
Come on, Bishop.
that sort of like, that was a real hurt that I had. It took years. I mean, like years. I think I just probably got healed from that maybe a couple years ago when my high school invited me back to speak for Black History Month. But it took years to get healed over that reality that I had messed up and didn't get a chance to walk with my classmates. So I ended up having to get my GED instead when they expelled me from school. So for years I was out in the streets. The church boy, the church boy, the nerd, the choir boy.
You helping us.
The boy that had dreams and plans and goals of being an attorney. Here I am finding myself in the streets.
Yes.
Like full scale in the streets. Like it happened so fast to where the people that I started like working for, like within a year, those people that I was working for started working for me.
Come on, Bishop.
So it's like, and I know that all of this was the plan of the enemy, because when God has a plan for your life, the enemy will try to give you the things of the world to sort of like buy you.
Yes.
To bribe you into serving him. And I know when I was in the streets, I knew that there was no way I could be this successful on my own. And there's no way I would be this successful on my own. But I knew it was because the enemy was trying to basically offer me the things of the world for me to serve him.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow. And you know what? Can we clap our hands? Can we clap our hands for this transparency? I mean, I love, just the fact that you just allowing us, because let me tell you something. That's right. Come on, let's clap our hands for the transparency, because the thing about it is, Bishop, is that this is helping someone. I know this is speaking to someone. It was someone that, like you said, they started off, maybe they started in the church. But somehow they got away from it, and I love how you said it. The doorway was when you lost your virginity.
That was it. You can trace, like sometimes you can go back and trace your life. If you go back and do an examination of your life, you should be able to go back and trace, this is where I got off course. This is where I got sidetracked.
Yes.
This is where I got sidetracked because and for me, it's easy to pinpoint where and how and when I got sidetracked. I know exactly when I got sidetracked.
Wow.
But at the end of the day, that led me to, and I know I really don't want to get ahead of what we have planned to talk about, but that led me to really being at a bad place mentally.
Yes.
For years. Because when you realize you have so much potential and you have so many dreams and so many goals for your life and so many plans for your life, and then you mess up. I believe one of the greatest hurdles for us to get over as relates to our life is when we've messed up. And I messed up. When I say I messed up my life, I messed up my life majorly. I made a lot of bad decisions when I was a youth because I wanted things bad. And for me, it was more so sex, because I was like, my friends were losing their virginity in like junior high. I had classmates that were pregnant in junior high. And so, most of my friends or cousins were selling drugs, starting in 8th grade. Most of my friends and my cousins were selling drugs in the 8th grade, 9th grade. They were already being intimate as 13, 14, 15 years old. They already were driving cars. I mean, this is back in the day when, you know, people were driving the Cutlasses and the Cadillacs,
nice cars,
the big wheels and the system. So I'm really just thankful that I was able to get back on track through the grace of God. But it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy to forgive myself.
Come on, talk about that, Bishop. It wasn't easy.
It wasn't easy, because I found myself at a place of depression, and in the midst of that depression, that led me to actually using drugs for like 2.5 years.
Yes.
I used drugs just about every day.
Wow.
Because I became very successful in the drug game, and in the midst of that, there's a lot of challenges that you face. And I can remember I was like 18 or 19 years old, and I got robbed, and someone tricked me, and this all happened within a 2-week period. And so in the midst of all of that, I started to sample what I was getting to make sure that it was the real thing.
Yes.
It was right. And that led me to an addiction. And I wouldn't really call it an addiction. I would say it a habit, because I only got high when I went out. But the thing about Atlanta, especially back then in the 90s,
yes,
that was somewhere where you could go every night.
Every
night. On Monday night, I was somewhere. Gentleman's Club, Magic City, Blue Flame, 112, Chili Pepper, Liquid, every spot in the city that was popping back then, I was there. So like from Monday through Sunday, I was out in the club, and I was like lost. I was doing everything that I was big and bad enough to do. I really didn't care. Like if I died, because I felt like I had messed up my life, I was very reckless, about things that I was doing. I really didn't care about people that I was hurting. If you crossed me, you really messed up. You made an enemy, and I wasn't the type of person that you wanted to have as an enemy. I was someone that you wanted to have as a friend. But through all that I've been through, you can still see the hand of God on my life, because in the midst of, I can remember being depressed, high, and suicidal.
Yes.
I can remember being high, depressed, feeling like my life is over. I've messed up. There's no way I could ever get back on track. And I can remember being in a hotel room, high on cocaine powder.
Yes.
With a gun to my head, and the devil telling me to pull the trigger. And so, a lot of people don't know the untold story. They see me in the pulpit, or they see me in church, or they see me on social media, but a lot of people don't know my pain. A lot of people don't know the hurt that I've had to carry from years, just dealing with disappointment, things that have happened in my life. That's why you can never judge a man or a woman until you've been in their shoes, or until you really know their full story.
Come on,
because nobody really knows the full story. It's a lot of responsibility when you grow up in church, and
sir.
From the time you was a child, everybody was telling you that you're going to be a preacher. From the time you're 8 years old, you're ministering, you're witnessing to people in Germany. You're leading people to Christ as an 8-year-old kid. You're fasting for 2 days, real fast, just water, not these, not this,
not these play fasts.
No, real fast. I'm talking about 30-something years ago, 33 years ago. I was fasting for real as a 8-year-old child. So when you have that type of responsibility on your life, and you're living your life for God, and you're trying to be the example, you're the kid that your friends' parents want their son to be like.
Yes, sir.
That's a lot of responsibility, and I tried to get away from that.
Yes.
I got tired of being the nerd. I got tired of being called look at Ebby, he the nerd. I got tired of being laughed at, picked on. You know what I mean? So I believe I evolved into Eusebio, based upon me getting tired of dealing with people and what I went through with people.
Yes.
You know, because I wasn't always 6'2", 230 something pounds.
Come on.
When I was little, I was tall and skinny like JJ on Good Times. You know, so when I got out of high school, I was like 140 pounds. You know, I was 6'2", 140 pounds. My freshman year in high school, I wrestled, and the weight class that I was in was 112. My sophomore year was 119. You know, my junior year, I didn't play any sports because I had a car. And I didn't need to play sports.
Yes.
So, but you know, I'm just really thankful that the Lord has really saw us through this.
And you know what, Bishop, what I'm hearing is that, you know, expectations, you know, when people place their expectations on you, you know, sometimes, because I know sometimes the intention behind it is not evil or bad, but sometimes that pressure.
Yes.
The pressure.
It's a lot of pressure, and I liked it. I loved church as a kid. You know, I was never the type of kid that said I don't want to go to church.
Right.
I was the kid that wanted to go to church. But as I got older, I was like, man, if I stay in church, I'm gonna be a virgin for the rest of my life. You know what I mean? I was just like, man, you know. So I got away from it. You know, but yet and still, even in the midst of getting away from it, there would always be times when I would, even as a backslider, I would pop in.
Wow.
Even as a backslider, I would pop in. I would still pray. You know, I would be high and convicted. Have you ever been high or ever been drunk? Or have you ever been in a club and like you know you don't supposed to be here?
Yes.
That's like the worst feeling ever.
It is.
To be high or to be in a club or to be in an environment, an atmosphere.
That's the truth.
And you know you don't supposed to be there, and even in your state you're convicted like, man, you are better than this. And I found myself in those type of predicaments and those type of situations on countless of occasions.
Yes.
You know, so God gave me grace though. You know what I mean? God gave me grace. I mean, there's so much I've been through. I should have probably overdosed, because I really believe that I used to get high, and I used to try to just get as high as I could to see if I would bust my heart, because I was so devastated with my life. I believe one of the worst pains that I carried was the hurt from not actually walking with my classmates. That was a pain. And I can remember the day that the graduation was going on, and I was riding by, and as I was riding by with two of my friends, or my cousin and my friend, we was riding by, and I just started to cry. You know, because I had Head Start. I had pre-K, because I went to Head Start. Come on, pre-K, kindergarten, first grade, all the way through. So, you know, that was a lot of pain, and then there was a hurt of finding out that this kid, because I was telling you about the child.
Yes.
I found out 10 years later that this child, who I still love today, found out that he was not my son. So can you imagine being a 17-year-old trying to take on the responsibility of being a father, and you want to be that father that you really did not have, and so now you're putting this responsibility on yourself. And I've carried a false responsibility for 10 years, not knowing the truth that this was not my son. So part of the reason why I made some bad decisions was based upon that fact as well. Right. So that's a lot, man. That's a lot people don't know about me.
Right.
Right.
And the reason why I love it because of the fact that that was one of your defining moments. Not walking with your class.
That was a pain. I mean, it's still not. It's still not easy now, and we're talking about something that's 27 years ago.
Do you think it is because of the fact that it was that wrestle between you know, who you really was, and then who you was like portraying yourself to be?
I think it was a fight between the two personalities, the good and the bad. Because there was a good me.
Come on.
And then there was a bad.
There's a bad me.
No, there was no in between. You know, it's either good.
Come on, Bishop.
Or either bad. So that's conflict between the two. You know, there's definitely conflict between the two. You know, but we'll get into that.
Yes, we will get into that, you guys. OMG, I'm loving it. Well, you guys, we have to take a quick commercial break. But listen, I don't want you to go anywhere. Keep it locked right here. You are listening to The Conversation with Maria Byrd.
Thank you for tuning in to The Conversation with Maria Byrd.
So let's have this conversation
On WIGO 1570 AM radio.
You can connect with Maria Byrd here Fridays on The Conversation at 11 a.m. Go to www.mariabird.org. You can sign up for her newsletter. Check out the latest from The Conversation. You can be the next guest, have your song featured, or donate to the cause. Learn about marketing opportunities. Check out the giveaways, special promotions, free tickets, and the latest from Maria Byrd Publications. Again, log on to www.mariabird.org. That's www.mariabird.org.
WIGO 1570 AM radio.
On my way up, tour up. I'm going up, yeah. I'm going to heaven, by death or by rapture. What can they do to me? Whatever can happen, I know it comes afterwards. I don't see you as a threat. I came in here paying respect. I'm catching so many blessings. Even my haters are blessed. Yeah. Way up. I'm on the stairway to heaven. Yeah. Way up. I'm on the stairway to heaven. Yeah. Way up. I'm on the stairway to heaven. Yeah. Way up. I'm on the stairway to heaven. I stay in the pocket like money. I'm in my own lane and I'm running it. Hate me for living my life like I wanted, then I'll be okay with that punishment. Came in this world without a dime. Start from the bottom, you gotta climb. You wanna get it, you gotta grind. But don't ever sell out for a dollar sign. Don't take it. They offer you money until you get naked. You're losing your soul by the time that you face it. It's not enough time to replace it. You better guard it with all your heart. You either stand or you fall apart. Fitting in with the in crowd, but in the end where I them found. I'm going to heaven, by death or by rapture. What can they do to me? Whatever can happen, I know it comes afterwards. I don't see you as a threat. I came in here paying respect. I'm catching so many blessings. Even my haters are blessed. Yeah. Way up. I'm on the stairway to heaven. Yeah. Way up. I'm on the stairway to heaven. Yeah. Way up. I'm on the stairway to heaven. Yeah. Way up. I'm on the stairway to heaven. Where are friends when you really need them? Same town, do you really see them? Before the crowd in the Coliseum, my day one is not a human being. Hometown isn't on the map. I never been, but I'm going back. I never seen it, but it's more real to me than the ground that I'm standing on. I talk to God like he's in the room, sitting in a chair right in front of me. If I'm crazy cause I hear him talking back, that's exactly what I wanna be. Y'all excuse me, I don't know better. No one taught me how to be fake. I don't apologize for the faith, cause I was saved by amazing grace. Yeah, way up. Stairway to heaven. Yeah, way up. Stairway to heaven. Way up. Stairway to heaven. Way up. Stairway to heaven. I'm going to heaven, by death or by rapture. What can they do to me? Whatever can happen, I know it comes afterwards. I don't see you as a threat. I came in here paying respect. I'm catching so many blessings. Even my haters are blessed. Yeah. Way up. I'm on the stairway to heaven. Yeah. Way up. I'm on the stairway to heaven. Yeah. Way up. I'm on the stairway to heaven. Yeah. Way up. I'm on the stairway to heaven. Yeah. Way up. I'm on the stairway to heaven. Yeah. Way up. I'm on the stairway to heaven. Yeah. Way up. I'm on the stairway to heaven. Yeah. Way up. I'm on the stairway to heaven. Yeah.
Thank you for tuning in to The Conversation with Maria Byrd.
So let's have this conversation
On WIGO 1570 AM radio.
What's up, you guys? Welcome back. You are listening to The Conversation with Maria Byrd. You just heard the hit song Stairway to Heaven by Taro Da Vinci. And guess what, you guys? It's available right now for purchase on streaming and all digital media outlets. Also, you guys, I want you to connect with me. I am on Facebook at Maria Byrd, on Instagram at maria.bird. You can also follow me on The Conversation with Maria Byrd Facebook page, and check out my website at www.mariabird.org. If you are watching this via Facebook Live, we want you to share this video. Our goal is at least 100 shares. Last but not least, you guys, I would like you to make, if you would, a financial contribution into this radio show. And so if you would like to do that, please go to Cash App $Maria Byrd. Well, you guys, we are back with my very special guest, none other than Bishop Eusebio Phelps. Welcome back to the show, Bishop.
Glad to be here.
Yes.
Loving it. Yes. I'm loving it.
Bishop, before the break, you was just really breaking it down and sharing with us some of your defining moments. And so I wanted to just kind of go back to that. I love this story, somewhat of like the prodigal son, you know. And Bishop, can you just share with us some more of those defining moments? And then after you share that, can you just tie it all in of how you came back home, of how you found God?
I mean, one of the defining moments, I guess would say, like, I can remember, like, because my walk with God has been like,
yes,
it's been like almost like back and forth,
yes,
back and forth, especially when I was in my 20s.
Let's talk about it.
You know, because when I was in my 20s, you know, that was like different phases in my 20s.
Yes, sir.
My 20s was like ups and downs.
Help us.
You know, ups and downs in my 20s. And I got married. I've been married. I've been married 3 times.
Come on, Bishop.
Well, I guess sort of like 2 times, because I married my first wife twice.
Come on.
So, and when we got married, the first time I got married, I think it was in 1997. So I was 24 years old, and I married my pastor's daughter. And I want to say this. I really want to say this. I can remember I was serving in the church in 96. I gave my life back to the Lord from being in a backsliding condition.
Yes, sir.
And like, this was like the first time, and I was going to, and I don't want to, say names or anything, but I was going to a church in Douglasville. And when I was going to this church, and this was like, I had just got in trouble, like on a Friday.
Yes, sir.
Friday, I just got into like an altercation with the police, where I fought the police.
Yes, sir.
And so they were looking for me. They was trying to lock me up. And so I wasn't trying to go to jail. So
right.
We got into a physical altercation, and I got away from him. And so I'm on the run, and on that Sunday morning, it was Easter. I went to church out in Douglasville, and I felt the power and the presence of God. The first time I felt it since I was in Germany. And when the pastor prayed for me, laid his hands on me, that was a release. And so I gave my life to the Lord. I started serving in the church. I became his armor bearer. I drove the church van. I did everything. I never had a problem being a giver or a tither. And so his son found me a job, and I was working at a car wash at a detail shop from 8 to 6 Monday through Saturday, 6 days a week for $300.
Oh, come on.
60 hours a week for $300. And I was tired of giving and sowing seeds off that $300. And so, make a long story short, me and his daughter, we knew each other from the past, and we started to date, and we eventually got engaged. And my pastor told us to wait. And I want to say this because when he said wait, I heard no. He never told us not to get married.
Come on.
He said, don't get married now. And he told us, I can remember clear as day. He said, if y'all do this, you're going to turn what was meant to be a blessing into a curse. So we defied him. We went against his wishes.
Listen.
We went against his wishes. We got married anyway. He was upset. And when we got married, the bottom fell out. Like, within 6 months, I was out of church, period. Within 6 months, I was out of the church, period. And so there was a lot of things that happened between his relationship and my relationship. A lot of things happened with me and my first wife. We were young. We didn't listen. We were hard-headed. The bottom fell out. And within 6 months, I was back. I was out of the church. Within a year, I was back in the streets. And this time was not like my early 20s. This time was like on a you know, it was on a real major scale.
Yes.
Like, I'm talking about not just local, but crossing state lines.
Yes.
Now. So that was in, let me say, 1998, July of 98. That's when I backslid. And I didn't backslide, I just quit. Because one night I just said, you know what, forget it. I'm struggling, I'm broke. That night I was at the Blue Flame. And within 30 days, I had made probably like $50,000, $60,000. Within 90 days, I had bought my first house. Within a year, you know, I had a detail shop,
Come on, Bishop.
landscaping business, carpet cleaning service, you know, about 4 or 5 cars, motorcycles, hundreds of thousands of dollars. And within 4 years, I found myself locked up because of a police officer that I grew up with. I had a personal vendetta out against me over 2 girls. So he used his job to arrest me. He had someone that has a baby by my cousin to basically come to me for a drug deal. And even though I really wasn't, you know, dealing with this individual, I did it because I knew him. And so a year later, I found myself in federal penitentiary.
Come on, Bishop.
And so here I am, the nerd, the quiet boy, the lame, with a federal conviction. So I'm in the feds. Like, this not the state.
Right.
This is the feds, the people that locked up John Gotti,
Yes.
Al Capone, you know, the people that went after Escobar.
Right.
You know, so now I'm in federal penitentiary, and now I'm angry, I'm mad, I'm resentful.
Come on, Bishop.
I'm mad at my pastor.
Talk about it.
I'm mad at the police officer who did it, because we grew up together. Not only did we grow up together, we're third cousins by blood.
Come on.
His grandmother and his grandfather and my grandmother, first cousins, played on the same basketball team. I'm mad at the individual who he used to do it, who had a baby by my cousin. So I'm full of anger. So in 2006, I get out. And you would think that when I got out that I would learn my lesson. I got out so full of anger, so full of rage. I was on federal probation, and I was breaking the law.
Come on.
Didn't care. I was reckless.
Come on.
So it wasn't until a couple years later, and I wouldn't go to church for nothing. I was through with church. I remember my mom begged me to go to church on Mother's Day, and I was like, Mom, listen, I'm through with church. I'm never going back to nobody's church. And I can remember even my mother-in-law, maybe like some months after that, she saw me, and at this time, you know, I hadn't, you know, First Lady and I, we used to date when we was teenagers, but I hadn't seen this girl in over 20 years. And when my mother-in-law saw me one day in Marietta, she turned around and she tried to invite me to church. And I was like, Miss Louise, I'm through with church. I don't go to church no more. I'm through. She's like, well, can I pray for you? I'm like, yeah, you can pray for me, but I ain't going to church. So you go ahead and pray and let me go on about my business. So she prayed. Months later, I had a dream. Now, in this dream, I went to my family church, Pilgrim Baptist Church in Marietta. I went to my family church, and in the dream, I walked up to the guy that used to be a police officer, who actually was the one who orchestrated me being arrested by the feds. I walked up to him in the dream and I told him, man, I forgive you. So when I woke up, I went to the church. I went to the 8 o'clock service just like as in the dream. I walked up to him and I said, man, since 2002, I have been hating you to the point where I wanted to do something physically to you. Going forward, I forgive you, man. And that was like a burden. Oh, that was like a burden that lifted off of me. And not only did I forgive him, I forgave the guy who he used to set me up. And I also forgave my pastor because I was hurt by some of the things that we went through. And so in the midst of me forgiving those 3 people, God forgave me.
Yes.
And let me tell you what happened. Whew. In the midst of, that's why forgiveness is so important. It's like the greatest tool that we can have, because when Scripture tells us that if we forgive, God will forgive us. But if we don't forgive, God can't forgive us. But people miss this point. When we forgive God, God forgives us. When God forgives us, God speaks to us. Let me tell you, I started to hear from God again. As I forgave, I started to hear the voice of God again. I started to go back to church. I started to go back to my pastor's church in Douglasville. It had been almost 10 years since I had set foot in the church. I started to go back to the church, and that Sunday he wasn't expecting me. He didn't know I was coming. But I came to the church and we embraced. We hugged. We forgave each other. And that was like, it was forgiveness. If it had not been for that defining moment, I wouldn't be pastoring now. Because it was that pastor that I fell out with that actually laid hands on me, that validated who I was. Because God always, no matter who you think you are, God always would never bypass the process of having a man of God validate you. So it was at that time where we started to rebuild and rekindle our relationship, and it was a year later I was pastoring.
Come on.
I heard God, I had a problem with the church, and I heard God say, do you want to be a part of the problem or you want to be a part of the solution? I said, I want to be a part of the solution. So it's almost like I gave God a mandate, if you will. And I knew that time was of the essence, because now I'm in my 30s, and I've lost years. I've lost years of wandering, years in the wilderness, years that had been wasted. And so God did a quick work. We started New Faith. We stepped out on faith by myself. I didn't do how people do now. They try to steal people members, and they sit in the church for a certain amount of time where they can connect with people in that church, and then all of a sudden God has called them and they take members out, other people. I didn't do that. I stepped out on faith, got a building, got sanctioned.
Yes, sir.
License.
Come on.
Ordained.
That's right.
Did everything the right way, and God blessed it. Within 3 months, we had 100 people join the church. Within 3 months, I didn't know what I was doing. I never pastored before.
Come on, Bishop.
The first Sunday morning service that I preached, a real service, was at my own church. The first offering that I ever took up was at my own church. The first benediction that I gave was at my own church. You know what I mean? So I stepped out on faith, man. I didn't know what I was doing. I know I heard the voice of the Lord. I stepped out on faith, and God sanctioned it. If God sanctions it, then it's gonna last.
Come on, Bishop.
If God sanctioned, it's not gonna last 6 months. If the hand of God is on it, then it's gonna last.
Yes.
Because if God's hand is on it, it does not fail. There's no failure in God. There's no failure in God. If God called you, God is going to send the support. So within 3 months, 100 people joined. Within our first year, 200 people joined the church. Within the first year, 200 people joined, and we were able to start growing, and within the first year we went on TV, and we did a lot. I was full of a lot of zeal and a lot of passion and a lot of fire, and we launched the church up in Rome within those first couple of years, and then I think year number 4 we launched the church down in Stockbridge in 2015. So I mean, we're just really excited to see that God can work things out.
And Bishop, if I just want to say, Bishop, you are a survivor.
Man, when you talk about a survivor, I've been through so much, because now the enemy, you got to understand something, that the enemy will come to steal, kill, and destroy. So we got to understand, like, if the hand of God or the plan of God, the purpose of God, the anointing of God is on your life, the enemy will try to attack it. And like I've battled suicide, I've battled depression, I've battled even physical situations where, like, just 18 months ago, where the enemy tried to kill me in a car accident, where God was texting and ran a stop sign and hit me. But in the midst of all of that, here I am still standing.
Thank you, Lord.
In the midst of all of that, so we give God glory for the ability to continue to stand. And I really believe that if God has, and some people say it cliche, but for me, it's what I live by, that if God brings you to it, that He'll bring you through it.
That's right.
Because I've seen God do it. I've seen God come to the rescue. I've seen God bring me out. So. But in the midst of that, I like, even those people that are out there now that may find themselves faced with the same type of challenges.
Yes.
You got to stand and know that God is able to bring you out, no matter what situation, whether it's depression. I've been there. I've seen God do it. Losing a loved one. I've been there. I've seen God do it. I'm talking about, this is fresh. This is nothing. I just buried my brother less than a year ago. This is fresh. We're still looking for the person that did it. These are fresh emotions, but in the midst of all that I've been through, yet and still, I'm still standing. You gotta know that you know who you are in God.
Help us.
In spite of adversity, in spite of trial, in spite of conflict, you got to know who you are. And once you discover who you are, you have to have confidence in that.
That's
you got to have confidence. You got to have confidence in the fact everybody's not going to like you.
That's it.
You're going to have haters. You're going to have critics. You're going to have doubters. You're going to have people that don't understand your purpose, don't understand your assignment. But you got to continue to move forward regardless.
That's it. We got to continue to move forward. Bishop, tell us about your book.
Well, the book that I'm currently in the process of working on is the Untold Story.
Yes.
And it's going to be sharing a lot of things about my life. Like, that's a lot that people still don't know.
Come on,
and
it's necessary.
I'm going to break down a lot of different areas in my life. It'll deal with forgiveness, because that's one of the keys.
Yes, sir.
To, like, hearing the voice of God, you gotta forgive. But it also would deal with reconciliation.
Come on,
because people in the church don't know how to reconcile. we hold grudges. Sometimes you can't help but hold grudges. I told somebody 2 weeks ago. No, it was last Friday. I was preaching at a convocation, and in the midst of me ministering, I said, if you can survive the church, you can survive anything. And it's the people.
Yes.
Not the saints, but the church folks. If you can survive that, you can survive anything. So,
Bishop, before we go, I want you to encourage the pastors.
Let me say this to those pastors that are out here listening, man. You have to understand that this call and this assignment, it's not easy. A lot of people don't understand.
Come on, we was talking about that
it's weighty. It's heavy.
It's heavy.
So I just want to take time to encourage those pastors that are out there that may be going through the struggle, to continue to fight. Don't give up. No matter what. No matter who walks away. No matter who dogs you. No matter who lies on you. No matter who talks about you. Continue to press on.
Yes, sir.
Because I believe that God still has something greater. One thing about it is this: when you're close, and this is what I've been telling New Faith, we're closer now to the finish line, and that's why we got to continue to stay focused.
Yes.
You know, a marathon runner may get tired or discouraged because of the event that they're in, and they may get a little bit discouraged and want to give up, want to quit. But when they get on that last leg,
come on, Bishop,
they can see the finish line.
Ooh.
And so now where we are, where New Faith is as a whole, we're at the finish line.
That's it.
So I want to tell some of those pastors that are out there, listen, continue to run, because you're getting ready to see the finish line. And when you see the finish line, you're going to cross over. So I speak victory right now to every pastor right now. I speak prosperity over your life in Jesus' name. Amen.
In Jesus' name. Wow, Bishop. I mean, this is not over. We have to do this again.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to come. I might have to come back like twice.
Yes.
You know, we're gonna have to come back to really go a little bit deeper.
Wow.
Because it's a lot of things. In my life, I've seen so many different things in my life. Talking about from step parents, and you know how to manage relationships with a stepfather or a stepmother, or stepchildren.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So but it's a lot. I would love to come back whenever you have time.
Yes.
I would love to come back and share.
Absolutely. How can we connect with you?
Well, listen, I'm hardly ever on Instagram, but my Instagram is Bishop Phelps, and then I am on Facebook, Eusebio Phelps, Eusebio Divine Phelps. That's EUSEBIO Phelps, PHELPS. And don't go for junior, because there's two of us. So I'm senior. But and of course we have a church in Atlanta. We have 1403 Northwest Drive, Atlanta, Georgia, and then we have a location in Stockbridge, and that is 396 Eagles Landing Parkway.
Yes. Wow. Bishop, I just want to thank you again for coming. I just thank you for just sharing, your story, your testimony. Thank you so much for your transparency, because I'm talking about you're resilient. You are a survivor. If it means anything at all, I'm proud of you, man.
The thing about it is this: everybody have to learn how to bounce back. No matter what's thrown your way, just bounce back.
That's it.
As a matter of fact, the word for the day: bounce back. That's all. Just bounce back.
That's right. We have to bounce back, you guys. OMG. I want to thank my very special guest, Bishop Eusebio Phelps. I mean, you really do have to come back, because it's so much that we got to cover, man.
Yeah, we'll definitely come back. So let's make it happen.
We're going to make this happen. We're going to make this happen. Before you go, Bishop, I'm going to give you the last word. What you want to say? Just what you want to say.
I want to just encourage everybody that's out there that's listening to continue to press.
Yes.
You got to continue to press your way through adversity, press your way through your trials and your tribulations and your storms, because I really believe that better days are ahead. Listen, without the struggle, we would never really appreciate the success. It is the struggle that leads us to appreciate the success. So some people right now are going through struggle. That's because they're on the verge of success. And I speak it right now over everybody that's on the airways, everyone that's tuned in, everywhere that's listening. I speak now that God is getting ready to shift some things. I speak prophetically over your life in Jesus' name, that the worst is over and the best is yet to come.
Yes. Woo. Hallelujah. The worst is over and the best is yet to come. Again, I want to thank my very special guest, Bishop Eusebio Phelps. It was an honor to have you here, man of God.
It's an honor to be here. God bless you.
Wow, you guys. Well, I want you to make sure that you tune in next week. We have something absolutely amazing prepared for you. So remember, next week, same time, same place, right here on The Conversation with Maria Byrd.
And I guess a touchdown. Finally found me someone I can really trust now. I always had so much to say, but no one is saying to.
Thank you for tuning in to The Conversation with Maria Byrd every Friday, 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. on WIGO 1570. AM Radio.
So let's have this conversation like a radio station.
WIGO AM 1570, Morrow, Atlanta.
Well, you guys, again, I want to thank my very special guest, Bishop Eusebio Phelps, for coming on. Thank you so much, man of God.
Thank you for having me.
Yes.
Thank you for having me.
And you guys, make sure that you tune in next week to the next edition of The Conversation with Maria Byrd.
Tune in next week.